Have you ever felt like you have so many great ideas in your business, you want to help so many people, you want to make a lot of money, and you have everything that it takes, and yet somehow, some way, you keep banging your head against the wall, feeling completely stuck? Well, if that's you, I've been there before. I've been in business 20 years, having multiple businesses over the years, and there's been many times that I feel stuck. And when I look back, I ask myself, why did I get stuck? Well, in this video, I'm going to break down 5 mistakes keeping your business stuck, and I'm going to share with you 5 ways to get unstuck. So you want to listen in. The problem with getting stuck is this, is you don't know how to move forward. And see, you have the tactics, you probably have the strategies, you have the know-how, but yet you still get stuck. And I'm going to share with you why we do that, but also I'm going to give you the antidote. Because the point is, we can't make the money and the impact we want to have if we remain there, right? And so let's break that down and really realize what is keeping us and what is holding us back from the things that we want to do. So let's dive into number one. And this is a big one. Number one is dwelling on past failures and mistakes. That's what keeps us stuck. We keep replaying the mistakes. We keep dwelling on the things that didn't work, the failures. We keep dwelling on the experiences that maybe were bad experiences or produce a bad outcome. And so we get a little bit more hesitant, and then fear creeps in. And so when it's time to implement and execute something brand new, when it's time for new innovation, a new product launch, a new initiative for your business, a new revenue stream, perhaps, we go back into the files of our past failures, of our past mistakes, and we start dwelling on those. And sometimes it's top of mind, and other times we do this subconsciously. We're not even thinking that we're going to go into the Rolodex or the file system of our mind looking at these past mistakes, but it shows up with tension and reluctance. And so let me give you a couple of examples of what that looks like. So for me, I've had different products that I've launched, different offers that I've launched over the years, different, whether they were consulting programs, different marketing packages when I had a marketing agency, different mortgage options when I had a mortgage company years ago, or even in my coaching and my training company now, a new product, a new training that I was going to launch. And there's times that I have this amazing idea. I know it'll work, and then I'm getting ready to execute, but then I get the memories of the time that I launched something that didn't quite work out. And then I start dwelling on that. And then I start talking myself out of the very thing that could have been the next breakthrough offer that I had. And yet I never even got to it because I'm dwelling in the past. So if that's you, if you find yourself being reluctant to doing new things, it might be because you're looking at the past failures. You might be looking at the past mistakes. And every time that we bring it to memory again, it's as if we're replaying that very thing over and over again. And for some of you, just like at a time it was for me, we're playing mistakes from 5, 10 years ago. We're playing it out today. And so that still has power over us 5, 10 years later. So we got to get to a place where those things no longer keep us stuck, because otherwise we're not going to make the progress. I'll give you one more example, but then I'm going to give you the antidote, what to do about this. Another example is, for me, there was a time where I built a team. And in my business, I had a team of about 20 people. There was a lot of payroll, you can imagine. There was a lot of expense. There was a lot of people to manage. There, a lot of personalities to manage. So when I shifted my business model, I was like, well, I want to be a one-person business. And every time that I got to a place where I needed more help, I was very reluctant because I remembered the pressure of when I had a bigger team. I remember how much I had to be on, how much I had to communicate, how many interruptions I had and all that stuff. And then the thought came to me like, I don't want to build a team, because a team equals interruptions, it equals stress, it equals big payrolls. So forget it, I'll stay on my own. Well, I'm the one responsible for then the cap, the limit, the ceiling on my business, because I wasn't willing to bring in additional help at that time. Whereas now I look at it and I was like, well, what could I do differently so it doesn't produce that busyness, that stress? And that goes into now how to get unstuck in this particular area. The way that you get unstuck from dwelling on past failures and mistakes is actually just really redefining failures and mistakes. What does that look like? Instead of failure being something that didn't work out, which most of us don't want we don't want to do things that end up not working out. Instead of looking at it like that, why don't you look at failure as feedback? So then there's lessons to learn, right? And that goes into the other part. Failure is really feedback. It's not an identity. Yes, the thing didn't work. You're not a failure. The thing you didn't work, right? But also losses, times that we lost. Oh, I lost that great employee. I lost that big contract. I lost that client. Look at the losses as lessons. Well, what could I have done different? What could I do now that I wasn't doing back then? So when we change our relationship to failures, to mistakes, to losses, and make them empower us, equip us, then they don't have that emotional baggage. They don't tear you down, but actually build you back up. Because now, for example, when I experience a failure, I'm excited about that because I recognize I'm one step closer to what would win. I don't get down on myself, right? And what I did is I changed my relationship with failure. Before, I avoided failure. I didn't put myself in situations that could potentially lead to failure, but you could imagine that that's very limiting. And it's honestly contrary to the entrepreneurial spirit. We go out there to go into uncharted land. But now I see failure as feedback. If it didn't work, what can I learn here and how can I do better? If I lost something, I lost a contract, I lost a client, I lost an opportunity, then I'm like, well, how could I gain it? What can I learn from this so that I can gain and do better next time? Now they shape me, they refine me, they make me better, they don't take away from me. And so if you're going to get unstuck from this area of dwelling on mistakes and failures, you have to change your relationship with mistakes and failures. They are for you, not against you. Cool. So that's a big one. Number 2 is working endlessly without a clear destination. Now, we hear in the entrepreneurial world, like there's this hustle and grind that's required, right? We're willing to do things others aren't. I love that, right? I love the spirit of that. I don't always love the application of it. Because what we start doing is we start working and doing all the things. And then I got to do social media. I got to launch offers. I got to work with this person. I got to partner here. I got to go speak here. I got to go participate in this networking group. And all of a sudden your day is packed full of doing. But we're not clear what we're doing it for. And if we were clear what we're doing it for, then we'd be like, well, I could eliminate 50% of that because it's actually not going to produce what I want. But a lot of us, without recognizing it, we're just in this process of doing, and measuring all our doing equal. Like it's all productive, but not all doing is productive, especially when it's not driving to a certain destination you want to get to. So I'm in Chicago, and if I wanted to take a road trip to, say, New York City, to Manhattan, right? If I wanted to pack for that, I would know how long that road trip would be. How long will I be on the road? How many stops am I going to make for gas? How much food should I plan for? Whether we're going to stop to eat wherever on the way or I bring food or whatever the case is. But I can plan accordingly because I know my destination. But if my wife and I were talking, we're like, we want to take a road trip and we didn't define where we're going, we might pack and we might prepare enough for a 1-hour trip and yet end up in California and we'd be underprepared. Or we can do the very opposite. Let's prepare for California, but actually we're just driving to a suburb of Chicago, which is 15 minutes away. The destination matters. And what keeps us stuck is all the doing, and we don't stop enough to really get clear on where we're even going. It's like asking Siri, take me somewhere fun. And you can experiment with that. Do it. Go ahead. I have multiple devices, so I'm going to have Siri just overwhelm me here with all the devices I have. But you could try this. Ask it to take you somewhere fun or somewhere interesting. And that's such a broad ask that it can't give you turn-by-turn instruction of how to get there, but where you ask a very specific thing. Maybe a specific restaurant you want to go to. Maybe it's a coffee shop you like. Maybe it's a location, a museum, whatever that is, something very specific. You name it and you ask that instruction, give me directions to this specific place. Next thing you know, you're going to have turn-by-turn instructions. And for us, since we're not clear about where we're going, it's so wide and broad how we can get there that we end up adding more complexity, more things to do. And all it does is it takes our time. It spreads us too thin. So it keeps us stuck because honestly, we don't have the right time and effort and energy to put towards the things that actually matter because we are so busy with everything. So to get unstuck from working endlessly without a clear destination, what you need to do is take a moment, and I know this is tough for some of you, but I'm telling you, this is the most important work you could do. Stop. Stop and get clear about what you want and where you're going. Now, if you need help, I created a video and it's called here's exactly why your business feels like a dragon. In it, I have 5 questions that you need to ask yourself to get this point across, to get clarity. When you're clear, the directions become smoother and easier and faster. So if you lack clarity, make sure you check out the video. I'll link it down in the comments here. But that's number 2, is how do you get unstuck when you're taking all this action you're so busy doing, is you get clarity. And once you have clarity, you might only need to focus on 3 to 4 main things that get you that outcome, and you just eliminated 15, 20 things that really weren't even taking you closer. They're just things you thought you had to do. So that's number 2. Number 3, to get unstuck, to get your business unstuck, here's another big one, is having the wrong kind of freedom in mind. So I'll tell you what I mean. We get into business because we want freedom. Most of us, many of us at least. But most of us get into business because we want more freedom. Time freedom, location freedom, financial freedom, relational freedom. We want freedom. For me, that's one of the highest core values that I have, that I build a business around, that I build my family around, that I build all the things that I do around, is freedom. And for almost, I want to say at least 15 of my 24 years in business, at least 15, possibly even 20, I had this in mind. I want to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, how I want to do it, and with who I want to do it. And that's freedom to me. But that's the wrong kind of freedom. And here's why it keeps us stuck. It keeps us stuck because we don't allow ourselves to think of discipline and organization and structure as a means to produce the freedom we want. We feel that it takes away our freedom. Well, if I was disciplined, then I'm not doing whatever I want, however I want. Well, if I had to follow a specific schedule, that doesn't feel very liberating. That doesn't feel very free. And so we're chasing this wrong version of freedom that actually is causing us to not feel the freedom. Because let's say you do have an open schedule. Let's say you don't have much structure. You don't have much discipline. But you're watching this video here. That's how to get unstuck. And this is one of the reasons we get stuck, is because we're not willing to do certain things that actually produce real freedom, because it goes against our concept of freedom. But if we change our concept of freedom, it's a game changer. You get unstuck here, right? Because there's a big cost to wanting everything, whenever, however, with whoever. It's a great thing. It's a great idea, but that's kind of like the lowest stage of freedom, but there's a higher stage. So let me give you an example, because I want to make sure that you get the lesson here. I remember years ago, my son was younger, and, he was going to school still. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to have dinner at home every night. We wanted to have dinner at the table. Like, that was a main thing. That was a non-negotiable for our household. Every night we have dinner at the table. Now, here's the issue. We could eat whatever we wanted, right? We have the pantry, we have the refrigerator, there's tons of options there. So we could eat whatever I want, but every night it was this question, well, are we going to eat tonight? Now we got to figure it out. Isn't it freedom? You could eat anything. Just go in the refrigerator, pull it out. That's freedom, isn't it? Well, here's the problem. Every single night, We had to have the same conversation every night. What are we going to eat? What do you guys want? Well, I don't want this. Well, I do want this. Well, so that's happening every night. In addition to that, there's a planning process, and now there's a preparation process. How do you prepare if that conversation is happening at the end of work every day? So what we decided to do in this season of our lives, we decided to do something different. We're like, well, why don't we pre-structure the menu for the week? And so 2 days, my wife chooses what we're going to eat. 2 days a week, I'll choose what we're going to eat. 2 days a week, our son is going to choose what we have to eat. And then that one other day was open. We can eat out. I mean, we could eat out the other days too, but like we could eat out. We can just choose. We can eat leftovers. We can all make our own meal. Didn't matter. That was unstructured. But 6 days were already decided that previous weekend. Here's what that did. Now, that is structure, right? It was already predetermined so that by the end of the week or during the week, we didn't have to make those decisions. We could prepare ahead of time. Sometimes we threw stuff in the crock pot because we knew what was going to happen for dinner that night. Freedom. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to expend mental capacity towards this. I don't have to have this conversation. We don't have to debate for 15, 20 minutes to decide and then now start the process, which delays when we have dinner because that decision was already made. And so on the board, we'd write our days, and now we know what we're shopping for. It saved us money. Now we know what we're going to eat. All of us had a say-so in a dinner, and it just lightened the load. Lightened the load. Why? Because there was a structure in place. And the structure actually created the freedom that we wanted. So for some of us, we've been pursuing freedom, but then we've been pushing away the things that actually produce freedom. And so we remain stuck. So we don't show up to post our content. Why? Because I could do it whenever, I'll get around to it, but it's not in your calendar. And then you feel this weight because you haven't done the thing you wanted to do. And days are going by, weeks are going by, months are going by. I still haven't posted. I still haven't created my YouTube channel. I'm still not on Instagram. I have so much to share and I'm not doing it. Why? Because it's so open-ended that it's not going to happen versus if you had a structure, if you had a discipline in place, if you have habits that are burned into the way you operate your life, that actually produces the freedom that you really want. Because with structure, with discipline, you can get a full workday in like 3 or 4 hours, disciplined, structured, organized, and then you have the rest of the day on, and you're free. And that feels so liberating. But the reason we can't have that freedom is because we don't want to make the commitments that don't feel like freedom. It's a wrong relationship with freedom. We've been looking at the concept of freedom all along. And so how to get unstuck? Number 3 is have discipline, have structure. Think about this, repeat it over and over, write it down if you need, put sticky notes on your desk, reminders. Structure creates freedom. Discipline creates freedom. Organization creates freedom. And so what you're doing is you're reteaching your mind, and suddenly you will see the value of those things that you once didn't value because they were contrary to the freedom you wanted. You actually realize that those things are what produce freedom. So that's number 3. Let's go on to number 4. I hope you're finding value here. Again, check out the video that I posted. Here's exactly why your business feels like a drag. And it's a really good complement to this video here. And it's linked in the comments below. Now, let's move on to number 4. Number 4 is mistake number 4 that's keeping your business stuck is this. You're copying other people's businesses. Now, there's a similar method that is empowering, but this one keeps us stuck when you're copying other people's business. And you do it for a good reason. We do it for a good reason. I've done it for a good reason. I see what they have and I'm like, I want that. I want to produce that. I want to be able to do this. I want to. So we're doing it for the right reason. The problem is this. We don't know what their values are. We don't know why they're even building it the way they're building it. But yeah, we just take it for face value, surface level. Here's what they're doing. They post 7 times a day. I'm going to post 7 times a day. And then you're exhausted. And then you feel like this This kind of sucks. I can't keep this up. But who said you had to do it that way? You copied what they're doing. Or you might look at their websites and you have 15 tabs open right now looking at other competitors' websites. Oh, I want to do that. One day I'll have this. I'll do that. And then you're constantly looking at what you don't have, trying to copy theirs. But here's the reality. They're not building what you want, and you're not building what they want. Each of us individually have our own values. We have our desires. We have a specific impact that we want to make. So if you're constantly copying other people, when do you have time to actually look deep inside and give yourself permission to go after what you want? And chances are, if we're always busy looking at what others are doing, we're not giving any time to what we really want, to what we want to build, to going back to why we want to build what we build. So instead of copying, there's a different way to do it. To get unstuck, forget copying. The truth is, you don't want what others have built. Because here's the thing, like this is a sobering thought, and then I'll get to the what to do instead. The sobering thought is this. Think of it in this sense. If I copy to get the outcome, am I willing to copy to pay the price they paid? What that means is, am I willing to go through all the trials, the tests, the mistakes, the failures they went to get this result? Well, if you want to copy them, that's part of it. That's why they got to where they got, because they paid the price. They made the mistakes. They failed. And chances are you don't want their failures. You don't even want your failures. I don't want my failures unless I look at them, as point number 1 says, is feedback, right? I don't mind failures right now because they're feedback. But I definitely don't want to take other people's failures unless they're giving me some wisdom, right? But to copy what they created will require me to copy not just the highlights, the wins, but also the failures. And I'm not willing to do that. And they might be building something different than what I even want. So what if they have the following? What if they have the influence? What if they have the reach, but they have a team of 50 people who they're responsible to? Is that what you want? Well, no, I want the influence. I want that, but I don't want a staff of 50. Well, they had to build this to support that type of team. Oh, I see. Yeah. I haven't factored that in, right? So instead of copying to get unstuck, here's what we do instead. We model. And by modeling, you're modeling aspects of what they built that align to what you want. And then once you model that, you form it to a way that supports you, right? Like, okay, I realize that they use Instagram. Like, that's an example. They use Instagram, and here's how they post. Well, Instagram, I see that, that they have a similar audience, so I might be on Instagram. Okay, cool. I'll model that platform. But I can't sustain 7 posts a day. So, yes, I'll model the platform. I'll model, their marketing strategy and using Instagram as one of the platforms. But here's what I will do. I'm going to mold that strategy around me. I can post 3 times a week. I'll post 3 stories a week. Maybe I do 4 reels a week instead of 10. Maybe I do 1 reel a week, right? But take what they're doing and model it in a way that fits you and what you're building. It has to align to what you're doing, what you're building, because otherwise you're building a replicate of their business and you've never built your own business. And so that's why people get stuck, is we're too busy copying others and not building what we want. And if you really want to learn from what they're doing, model what they're doing, but then mold it to fit what you're building. So the focus there is build what you truly want, not build what they have. And there's a distinction there. Now, let's get into number 5. What keeps your business stuck? It's analysis paralysis. Or another way of saying that is overthinking, and under executing. There's a lot of stuff you want to do. We already addressed that you're You might be wanting to do what others are doing, right? There's a place for that if you model and not copy. There's another aspect of this where you're doing constantly. You're working endlessly without a clear direction. So let's say you had the clear direction. But now here is this, is now we overthink. We have analysis paralysis, and you're looking at every single angle, all creating all these hypotheses, and never actually execute on any of these thoughts or ideas. That keeps us stuck. Because perhaps somebody else could get the idea and they don't bring the baggage to the idea. And so they're like, okay, phenomenal idea. Let's execute. Let's get it done. By this Friday, it's done out there in front of people. Whereas somebody else who has analysis paralysis, they're like, well, what about this? Okay, let me sleep on it. Okay, I slept on it. Let me have coffee over. Okay, I did that. You know what? I'm going to take this weekend and think about it. All right, cool. No, you know what? I need another week. Actually, we're too far into the month. Let's actually plan that for next month. But you could have served some people already. You could have had it helping people. You could have had the idea out there. You could have gotten feedback. Maybe it wouldn't have worked, but in 3 days, you can have feedback versus not even out there to test for days, weeks, months, and for some of us, years. And that's analysis paralysis. A lot of that is based on fear. It's not even about the idea. It's about what happens if the idea doesn't pan out. And that's why number one was all about reframing the way we look at failures and mistakes. See, if you have a different relationship with failures and mistakes, then we move on to mistake number 5, which is overanalysis. We don't have to overanalyze anything because put it to the test immediately. And then we have feedback vision. What's there to think about? We put it in front of people. Either they liked it, they didn't. And now I know, all right, cool. Abandon the idea or actually go further into the idea because it took. People were interested, right? I don't have to overanalyze anything because I put it out. And if it didn't work, exceptional. That's a lesson for me. But if it does work, that's a win for me. That's not only a win for me, but that's a win for others. And so instead of analysis paralysis, what you want to do instead to get unstuck is you want to speed up the time between inspiration and execution, between idea and testing. Right? You want to speed up that time. I have the idea today. Cool. Can I get it out by this afternoon? Can I put it out there tomorrow? No later than tomorrow. Within 24 hours. Can I put it out there? It's not going to be the biggest thing in the world yet, but I haven't even tested it to see if I have to put that much time, effort, expense, budget behind this thing. Let's experiment. Let's get some feedback. What's the lowest hanging fruit that allows me to get feedback so I can get the idea out of here and out there? Because it's all theory until it touches people. So let's get our ideas to touch the people. Let's get it in front of people. But then we don't have to analyze stuff. And worst case scenario, let's say it didn't work out. Excellent. Okay, great. I'm glad it didn't work out. I would have liked for it to work out, but I'm glad it didn't. Because now I can look back and ask the question, okay, great. Why weren't you interested in that? What could be different that would make you interested? Or look at it introspectively. What could I have done differently? Oh, I could have actually positioned it that way. And I'll give you an example. I'm probably going to create a video out of this. So I'll give you an example. Last year, I launched a tester, a fueler, an idea. I had this idea that I wanted to build an online brand and monetize it in a week. And so the idea was, hey, if you buy into this workshop, I'm going to build the thing in front of you so you can see what I'm building. We're going to launch it together and we're going to monetize in 5 days. I called it the over-the-shoulder program. I got 3 people interested, maybe. So I was like, okay, that ain't it. I didn't treat it as failure though. I was like, okay, they didn't like that idea, but I feel like this could really work out. What do I need to change? So then I gave it another couple weeks so I can kind of retool the idea. And then I came back and I'm like, let's give it a fancy name, but it's the same idea. Let's give it a fancy name. So I called it micro brand. Build a micro brand in 5 days. Put that back out there. Guess what? It was still an over-the-shoulder program. I was still gonna build it in literally exactly the same, just a different packaging to it. And now instead of the over-the-shoulder program that only 2 or 3 people were interested in, now I call it the micro brand. Build a micro brand and monetize it in 5 days or less. And I had probably about 150 people register to a free workshop. And then I sold the program. That ended up producing, with all the things that were attached to it, it produced about $9,000 in 5 days. From idea to monetization, 5 days, 9 grand. When the same idea packaged the wrong way, didn't make a single dollar, but I didn't give up on the idea. See, that wasn't failure. That was just feedback. And so when I took that feedback and then I repackaged it, repositioned it, put it back out there with the idea. Remember, we're speeding up inspiration to execution. I executed. People were interested. They raised their hands. They bought. And now I have a program. Now I have a program that I sell that didn't exist, but it was just an idea that I tested it. I did go as tested. I got feedback, retooled it, put it right back out there. It worked. And it produced $9,000. Now, in the past, working a 9 to 5 never paid me $9,000 in a week. But as entrepreneurs, we have the opportunity to do that. But here's what it takes. Going from analysis paralysis to speed of execution. And that's how you get unstuck as an entrepreneur. So these are 5 ways that are keeping you stuck, 5 mistakes keeping your business stuck, but also 5 ways to get unstuck. So let me give you a summary. Remember to check out the video in the comments below. And if you need help, if you want support, if you want to be in an environment where you get this kind of teaching and training, then make sure you join the Fampreneur tribe. It's a free community for people who want to build a thriving business around their ideal lifestyle, around their ideal family life. So here's the 5 mistakes. Dwelling on the past failures and mistakes is number 1. Working endlessly without a clear destination. Number 3, pursuing the wrong kind of freedom. Number 4, copying others. Number 5, analysis paralysis. And what to do about it? How to get unstuck? Number 1, learn from your losses and treat failure as feedback. That's number 1. How to get unstuck with number 2. Get clear about what you truly want. And the video that I'm linking below will ask you 5 questions to get exactly this. Number 3, have discipline and structure, and recognize that discipline, structure, and order gives you freedom. It doesn't take away freedom. Number 4 is model aspects of other people's businesses and apply it to your business, the business that you truly want. And number 5, go from analysis paralysis to picking up the pace between inspiration and execution. Those are 5 key things keeping you stuck. There are also 5 things to get unstuck, build momentum, and go after the goals that you want. Thanks for showing up today. Check out my other videos. If you want to connect with me, go to fampreneur.com/fam and go there. Or you can find me on social. All the links are below. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.